Okay, could everyone take your seats, please?
Where the heck is all this water coming from? Yeah? Now it's on my thing.
Okay. We'll go ahead and call this meeting to order. Would everyone rise, please? And would Michael Rowe, would you please come forward and give us the invocation, please?
Thank you, sir. Let us pray for our city and for our council. Almighty God, our Heavenly Father, you give to human leaders the authority and responsibility to serve your people. Send down on the members of this council the spirit of wisdom, generosity, and justice, that with true dedication they may faithfully fulfill their mandate to promote the well-being of all people. Bless the citizens of our city and all who visit and spend time here. Help us to thrive in our homes and families, our work, our communities. Share with us your vision of a flourishing humanity, that we may contribute generously to the well-being of others. Through him who came not to be served, but to serve, and to give his life so that all may live, Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen.
Amen. Would you all please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag of our country? I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Councilman McIntosh. Here. Councilwoman Martin.
Here.
Councilman Slechta. Mayor Nelson.
Here.
Councilman Simmons.
Here.
Councilwoman Simon.
Here.
Councilman Longcart.
Here.
All right, good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Evening.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
All right, better. Okay, public comment on agenda items. Anyone wishing to speak on an agenda items only, please come forward.
Yeah, excuse me. The Rick Steinmeier talking about the nature,
Shut it down.
talking about nature and the economic value of nature, but I love nature, but it's the people that I don't like. The people and animals and plants don't get along. So you can have it, but stay out of it.
Okay, thank you. Next speaker, please, come forward.
A happy remark.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, City Councilmen and women. My name is Jim Murphy. I'm from Pelican Landing. I'm on the Board of Directors for Pelican Landing Community Association, and I'm a very proud resident of the Bonita Springs. I would like to thank you all for an emergency that you helped us with our island when we were about to lose it. And you gave us immediate one-day permits to do what we needed to do to save our island. During our road construction of 13 miles of new roads, Dave Lucardi and his staff gave us great advice as to how to do it properly, and we just completed that process. And also, just this month, we want to thank you that our marina, which we purchased in December, is now in the city of Bonita Springs. We're very proud of that. Our board passed a resolution which has been presented to the city already, and I'll just state it briefly rather than read the whole resolution. It states that we as a board wish that the referendum go forward for our residents in unincorporated Estero to consider whether or not they wish to have an annex into the city of Bonita Springs, or if they wish not to do so. Our board also states that we are now 80% in Bonita Springs, and we do not wish to have two municipalities ruling one community of 47 neighborhoods. We are one community, and I thank you for your time.
Thank you very much, Jim. Anyone else this time, please come forward.
Good evening, Kathy McGrath on the Special Events Committee, and I just want to remind you, I see item I under the consent. I know it's a no-brainer, but we've got a fun day planned for you all, and I just hope everybody in Bonita will come see us. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Anyone else this time, please come forward.
Hi, Christine Ross. I'm here tonight. One item for me personally as a citizen here. Really hope that you'll reconsider actually leave your vote in place for the library system. I think it's really important that our library be part of the greater system, which is multi-county, so that we have the ability to get loaners and online books from other libraries. And that if we have a new library built in the community, which we should, and we should keep pressure on the county to do that at some point, that it be a community resource. I've seen it in many communities bring generationally families back together, and I think it's really important aspect of Bonita Springs. To go out on our own would probably really minimize the impact of what we could do, limit the quality and the quantity of the books, and I think would just cost us a whole nother level of government that might not be necessary. The other thing I want to say on behalf of the Chamber of Commerce and the Economic Development Council is we're very, very much in support of the Bonita Center for the Arts and the Performing Arts Center that they are getting ready to put into the former Living Waters Church. And I would just hope that you will help them do whatever's necessary to make that extension possible. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
My name is Deborah McLean. I'm the publisher of the Banana Peel, and I am happy to see on the agenda tonight that we are going to hear and see a presentation from the Southwest Florida Regional Planning Council on the impact of having raw land and the ecosystem on our economic development. I also hope that this is a first in a series of presentations, as we have made some very rash decisions lately on studies. And I agree with the Art League also. The more that they can vacate those little lots and get some parking, it'll be better for them. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anyone else this time? Please come forward.
Good evening. My name is Jeff Brown. I'm the former head of the Library Board of Trustees Task Force, or Library Task Force. I'm a little concerned about that we'll have a revote on an issue that we thought was moving forward very progressively. On May 20th, the council had formed the Library Task Force with the task to provide input to the City Council in regard to establishing whether the library should remain with Lee County, as well as to review how libraries should be utilized so that the facility will meet its current, future, and long-term needs. On March 16th in 2011, the committee made its report to the council, and the findings were that the present building is insufficient and that a 36,000 square foot library would fulfill the needs of the Bonita for now and the future. The Library Board Task Force also recommended that the council enter into discussions with Lee County to expand the library. Furthermore, the council should investigate the expansion potential of the existing site and the availability of the Lee County funds for expansion. I'm sure you still have that report, and I ask for you to review it once again. On July 26th of 2012, a report was prepared by the Senior Engineer and Capital Project Construction Manager of Lee County and was presented to the City Council considering the proposed library expansion. 3 options were reviewed: the expansion of the existing library, demolition of the existing library structure and construction of a new 25,000 square foot library, and 3, building a 25,000 square foot library off-site. The county had recommended option 2, which would be demolish the existing construction and build a new library. At that point, the Library Board Task Force was reconvened to review that report, as well as to put its input as far as why the county thought 25,000 square feet would be more acceptable than our initial recommendation. Earlier this year, the Library Task Force had met with county library staff and engineers several times. It was determined that the best approach would be to commission a study to determine the best library facility for Bonita would be. The cost not to exceed $50,000 at that time. And the reason for that, when one of our reports we looked at was the Johnson Engineering report that was dated 2006. Since then, many new things happened in technology. The iPhone wasn't even out then. iPads weren't invented. People weren't using readers as they do now. So the whole type of brick and mortar library as we know it now has changed. And before investing into a new library, perhaps we should review the best usage of a new one in Bonita. In the May of this year, the City Council formally requested that Lee County Commissioners conduct a study as to what kind of library the community wants. Since that time, the county is prepared to go forward with hiring a building consultant. The cost of this consultant will be below the threshold amount required for the bid process. Therefore, they can move directly forward with this. Also in the budget process, the adoption of the county commissioners raised the millage to allow $2.2 million to be put aside per year so we can start the process in the first 5 years of building a new library. The county has been fulfilling its requirement and its commitment. I ask you that we have started to travel a long road and the finish line is in sight. Don't at this time, for whatever reason, stop moving forward and start all over again. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anyone else this time? Please come forward.
Good evening. My name's John Goodrich. I'm Vice Chair and Government Relations Director of the Estero Council of Community Leaders. I'm also a Director of the Estero Community Planning Panel and on the Board of Governors of the Estero Community Improvement Foundation. I'm here this evening to ask you to reconsider your efforts to annex any further areas of Estero. However, I realize that horse is probably already out of the barn. Tonight, I really want to answer questions that I have seen raised in the media of why it is that ECCL does not trust the intentions and border aspirations of the city of Bonita Springs. ECCL believed we had an understanding with Bonita Springs that we would mutually advise each other should ECCL decide that incorporation of Estero was feasible and worthwhile, while at the same time Bonita Springs would advise ECCL should they decide to annex areas of Estero. I understand that only ECCL members remember this understanding, and I realize that with possibly one exception, none of you on this council or your current administration was a party to that understanding. Having gotten over the surprise of your annexation efforts, I can even understand the political reality that the agreements of one administration do not necessarily pass on to the next. So we in Estero have learned those realities. But there is more to trust than agreements and understandings. Trust is earned by action or in some cases, inaction. So when ECCL is notified 3 days in advance of the announcement of what had to be weeks of staff work that Bonita Springs has plans to carry out 2 voluntary annexations and 1 involuntary annexation of areas that have been part of the Estero Fire District and the Estero Planning Area for over 10 years, we have to ask ourselves, should we trust the intentions of Bonita Springs? We have no reason to believe that you will stop at these annexations, nor that you will work cooperatively with the ECCL on these matters. And even beyond that, you cannot commit future administrations to what you decide. So, we will go forward with our incorporation effort to forestall further encroachment into Estero. We do support the right of self-determination and will join you in a spirited debate as to what is best for the residents of Estero, who will have the choice either to join Bonita Springs or wait until the incorporation of Estero to decide which city best fits their needs. On a positive note, we also will continue to move forward in areas of mutual interest and benefit to our communities, particularly as it relates to our efforts to support Lee Memorial's appeal on the Florida Agency for Healthcare Administration's decision to deny Lee Memorial's application to build a hospital at Coconut Point. We will fight that decision with your support to the limits we are allowed by law. And we will continue to focus and build economic interest in Estero and Bonita Springs through the Bonita Springs Estero Economic Development Council. And I was pleased to have the Bonita Springs Chamber of Commerce President and the CEO join me at the Lee County hearings in support of Hertz's plans to build their new headquarters in Estero. In the end, the voters of Estero and Bonita Springs will decide their own destiny. After all is said and done, we will continue as joined communities to mutually develop a growing and significant economic presence and an improving quality of life for our residents in Southwest Florida. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anyone else this time? Please come forward.
Hello, I'm Nancy Ross, and I live in the area of Pelican Landing. That's part in question. It's always been my understanding, I've lived there 17 years, that we are part, the division was the Estero Fire District. We're not part of the city of, we're not part of Estero, which is not a city. Our address is Bonita Springs. We identify with Bonita Springs and would very much like to be able to have the opportunity to make our own decision. But we are not part of Estero, or just the Estero Fire District. Thanks for your time.
Thank you very much. Anyone else this time? Please come forward.
My name is Alberto Bayer, 23-year resident of Bonita Springs, Florida, specifically at the Windsor and Meadowlark Estates, where I function as the director of the Neighborhood Watch, amongst other things. I've been responsible for triggering the corrective maintenance that our neighborhood merited due to the flooding dilemma that we experienced for many years, despite the fact that we are privileged by the highest elevation, relatively speaking, to other neighborhoods in Bonita, which is actually why I purchased my home there. As a mortgage banker, I tend to have a very educated eye relative to these kinds of issues. Due to agenda that I took on practically on my own, in a Rambo-like fashion, if you will, I was able to engage Channel 2 and Channel 7, who interviewed one of the many flood-affected neighbors. I still have a link to the story, by the way, that you can view on video, where as a result of that effort in good faith to support a neighbor that's not as well versed in these matters as I am, I was able to get the news to actually expose this dilemma after having tried every other recourse unsuccessfully. Thanks to my following that course of action, I finally was able to get Gary Price, who preceded Mr. Carl Schwing as the manager of this city, to engage in the corrective maintenance that has relieved us significantly of the then current dilemma. I have brought to the attention of elected council in the recent past certain issues that affect my community, specifically my neighborhood, but it extends beyond it. Namely, we have an issue associated with crime. We have a burglary-intensive community who also is significantly affected by drug trafficking. Drug traffickers that are successful tend to select neighborhoods that are quasi-gated. In other words, they're upper middle class, but without the deed restrictions and the security that a gate provides. This is perfect for them because it's not in the economically depressed section of the city, and yet it doesn't have the difficulties in their trade that having a gate obviously disfavors them with. So per capita, we have more drug trafficking, in my view, based on the research that I've done, than any other neighborhood in our beloved city. As a result of that, I've been proactive in trying to educate my neighbors on how to be self-protective, given that we have not received much support from the vendors that we subcontract with as a city, because we don't have our own police system, namely the Lee County Sheriff Department. Our Delta District substation is headed by Captain Hinkson, who, despite the fact that I've sent him gifts on behalf of the Neighborhood Watch, left him messages for callbacks, will not cooperate with me. This particular...
Sorry, you come back again. Thank you. Thank you very much. Anyone else at this time wish to speak? Please come forward. Whoops.
Hello. My name is Helena Nesbitt. I'm the president of the Friends of the Bonita Springs Library.
Hello, Elaine.
And I just wanted to let you know we're here. My board is here, and several people who are interested in this issue are here to support staying with the Lee County system. We have been appraised of all of the issues. We were here for all the other meetings as well before this, and we do support staying with the Lee County system. And we're here and very interested in what's going to happen and hope we go forward.
Thank you very much. Anyone else this time? Please come forward. Okay. Officer Reardon, you wanted to introduce someone to us, didn't you?
Major.
What? I said officer. Are you still an
No,
officer?
she's a major officer.
Major.
We like it when women's got big
I'm just
labels.
looking here in the bylaws and it says never correct the mayor. It says it right there.
Yeah?
It says it right here. Well, wait a minute. Now it says it. Major Reardon.
We're on TV,
How do you
so
do?
I'll be nice tonight. Very good. Wanted to come this evening. We're going to have a little bit of a changing of the guard down here at Delta District. Captain Shane Hinkson is going to be leaving us for better things. He's going to be going back to the training unit, and he will now be in charge of that as well as our canine unit, which is kind of where he came from and what he is very, very good at. So we in the patrol are very happy he'll be going back there. With that said, we're sad that we're losing him down here, and he is a hometown boy, so I'm sure there's more people that are upset he'll be leaving. Some may be happy, but I would like to introduce the new commander for South District that is currently in effect, and that is Captain Sean Ramsey. He's been with the Sheriff's Department since 2001, and he brings with him a ton of experience. He's most recently been in charge of the robbery auto theft unit, fugitive unit, anti-crime unit, has a lot of investigative background. Personally, he's a huge proponent of community policing. I think he's going to be a great fit down here, and we're excited to have him. So I wanted to come tonight. It was perfect timing. You were having a night meeting. Wanted to come tonight and introduce him. So with that said, Captain Sean Ramsey.
Thank you. I'll try to keep this brief. I've met several of you individuals.
If you don't, we'll turn the light on for you.
I was watching the codes. I think green's good, yellow's caution, and then...
Ta-da!
Okay.
It's kind of familiar, isn't it?
Nevertheless, it was great coming in here this evening. I really felt welcome the minute that I walked in. I had the opportunity to meet several of you individuals on a one-on-one basis, and that was fantastic. I look forward to it. I embrace the opportunity to come down here and work with the City of Bonita, the Delta District. I think that we're very fortunate to have the core service that we have down here with these individuals. I think they are professionals. They do a great job, and I just can't praise them enough for the accomplishments that they have made. And I think that that's largely in part because of the communication that the Sheriff's Office continues to have with the council. And I think that it's really important that as a district commander that I make a point to get out into the community, to get to know the stakeholders of this community, to get to know the council members, to see what's important with you, to see the issues that we need to address and maintain that quality of life that we have here in Bonita Springs. And I realize that's going to take the cooperation of all of us. And I realize we're not always going to agree on everything. But I think at the end of the day, if we know that we did what we did for the right reasons, we're all able to lay our heads in good conscience. So I look forward to it. My door's always open. I'll be out and about in all the activities and participating as much as possible. And please don't hesitate to make yourself known and work through any issues that we have as they come about.
Great. And welcome to Bonita Springs and welcome to the Delta District. Thank you very much. Just everybody give them a hand. Welcome. Wait a minute, wait. Captain Hingston, could you step up here for 1 minute?
I knew I wanted to get down here.
Yeah, exactly.
I want to tell you, Shane, you have been a great friend and a great Venetian and great supporter of everything Bonita for a long time. I personally just, I'm so supportive of you and your career. So I'm really happy on one hand and really sad on the other hand. But I know that you are going to create a whole lot of great police officers with your training and your techniques and your skills. And well done with everything you've done here in Bonita Springs. I know your heart is here.
It is.
So thank you so much. And everybody, please give him a big
Please
round
make
of
him
applause.
cry.
Everything
You guys
he's done.
very much.
Ah, man, a few words.
He's leaving.
Is he crying?
What's that?
But again, I think Captain Ramsey, Sean, he likes to be called Sean. His door is always open. Like I said, huge proponent of community policing, which is what we're looking for somebody down here. Think he'll be a great fit. Door's always open. If you have any questions, we'll try and get together for lunch and introduce him. But I think it's going to be a positive move, and we'll get through. But we are all sad we're losing Shane.
Well,
Yeah.
Absolutely.
anyway, Captain Ramsey, welcome. And Shane, good luck on all your endeavors there. And please, I know he will. And listen, Major, please give our regards to the sheriff and thank him for all his hard work and help us create this great system that we have here in Bonita Springs. Please.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
personal privilege.
Yes.
I want to thank you, if I'm sure you had your hand in it, to bring Iris Sullivan to the middle school. I think she signed up 150 cadets already for the program with Lee County Sheriff's Office.
Yep.
And you know, she loves Bonita Springs. We love her. I think she's probably working with kids that she probably worked with their parents, you know,
Yes.
back in Rosemary Park. So she
Yep.
knows all their parents, which is just great.
Yes.
And can keep at. She's tough. She's like, you
Yes.
go right home and don't mess around. I mean, she's good with them. So
With that said, there's one other program that we recently have brought to Bonita. It's being held at the YMCA, but the Sheriff's Youth Activity League has established the archery program out at the Bonita YMCA. And a couple of the community policing officers are archery instructors. I believe it's going to be on Thursday nights out there, and the program's up and running very well so far. So yeah, we've been doing really good, but Iris is great over there.
thank you. And thank you for that
you.
Sheriff's Youth Activity League, too.
And
That's
take
great.
you for all the work you're doing. Thank you very much. We'll see you
Miss
later.
ya.
Thank you.
Come on back.
Thank you, Major. Okay, if I'm not mistaken, which I am quite often,
By yourself.
I have a proclamation here. Would Barbara and Ruth, would you please come forward?
Lovely
This is
Barbara.
going to be the proclamation having to do with nursing form. Hello. How are you?
Oh, this is good.
Okay, take your time. How you doing? Good to see you. And whereas there are more than 1.5 million individuals living in 16,000 nursing homes and 1 million individuals living in 50,000 board and care assisted living facilities in the United States, with over 4,000 facilities and 170,000 residents in Florida. Whereas the Federal Nursing Home Reform Act of 1987 guarantees residents their individual rights in order to promote and maintain their dignity and autonomy. And whereas all residents should be aware of their rights so that they may be empowered to live safely and healthily with dignity and self-determination. And whereas we wish to honor and celebrate these citizens to recognize their rich individuality, including the right to have a say in their care. And whereas individuals and groups across the country will be celebrating Residents' Rights Month to emphasize the importance of affirming these rights through facility practices, public policy, and resident-centered decision-making. Now, therefore, I, Ben Nelson Jr., Mayor, on behalf of this City Council and the citizens of Bonita Springs, do hereby proclaim October 2013 as National Long-Term Care Residents' Rights Month in the City of Bonita Springs, Florida, and encourage all citizens to join me in these important observations. Thank you so much for taking care of our people for us, and thank you so much for all the love for your work. Thank you so much. Everyone, please.
On behalf of Florida's Long-Term Care Ombudsman Program, I would like to thank Mayor Nelson and the council for this proclamation of Residents' Rights Month. As a staff member, and I am the district ombudsman manager for this district, which includes 7 counties, I am honored to accept this proclamation in support of all residents that live in long-term care facilities throughout Florida. The Ombudsman's mission is to passionately improve the quality of life for long-term care residents by providing services that protect the health, safety, welfare, and rights of the residents. With this proclamation, we champion and empower long-term care residents and ensure that they are informed of their rights of long-term care facilities. Additionally, we should encourage long-term care residents, facility staff, family members, and others to prevent and speak out against all types of abuse that may occur in long-term care facilities. Together as a community, let us make certain that residents of long-term care facilities continue to live happily, healthfully, and in a dignified way, not just for the month of October, but for every day of the year. Thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you so much. Well done. Nicely done. Thank you. It's a pleasure again. Thank you. And I have to wait for a picture.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Hey, you help me with the lights.
Okay, now at this time we have a presentation from the Southwest Florida Regional Planning Council. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well, thank you.
Good.
Council members, thank you for the invitation to present to you a presentation I did for the Regional Planning Council at the meeting this month to tell you about ecosystem services.
I'm sorry, your name for the record.
Oh, James William Beaver III,
There you go.
Planner 4 of the Southwest Regional Planning Council. I go by Jim.
Thank you, Jim.
Basically, I want to tell you about ecosystem services and a method I've developed that will allow us to calculate them when you do land use planning changes or look towards alternate futures for your region. The idea of ecosystem services is at the foundation of Western civilization. Plato acknowledged that ecosystem services exist in his dialogues and talked about how the forest and the olive trees around the city of Athens provided water flow, the watershed, and prevented the erosion so that the city could be able to prosper and reach the peak of the golden age of Greek civilization. And all this was being done without the Greeks having to pay for it. It was a service provided by nature. Environmental services concept was first introduced in the 1970s in discussions about critical environmental problems from MIT. Ecosystem services, the actual term, was coined by Ehrlich and Ehrlich, in a discussion about endangered species and how extinctions, when we lose certain species, we lose the services those species provide, and we're not going to get them back again, because many of the services these species provide cannot be duplicated by human agency, engineering, or any other enterprise that we might undertake. An example of this would be pollination, a large scale that provides the basis for our agricultural systems. So they talked about this as well as nowadays we talk about the socioeconomic objectives of ecosystem services. The fact that a person will be in East Germany planning to make their life savings together so they can get on the jet, come to Southwest Florida, and visit Bonita Springs. And so the conceptual idea that all that funding, because they really look at this, and I actually have the term from tourists I work with when we did German brochures for Ding Darling, it's Florida. The concept of Florida is such that they will spend enormous amounts of money to get here to experience that. And that's an ecosystem service our environment provides. They're not coming here to visit our highways. They're coming here to see our mangroves. Now, ecosystem services can be put into 4 general categories: provisioning, such as production of food and water; regulating, that controls our climate and keeps diseases down; supporting habitats such as nutrient cycles and crop pollination; and those cultural and socioeconomic services that I had mentioned. There have been some studies done in our region in the past. The Charlotte Harbor National Estuary Program encompasses an area from Estero Bay down here in Bonita Springs up to the city of Venice along the coast. And in a study that was done by Hazen and Sawyer, back in 1995, they looked at two types of ecosystem services: consumer surplus, what people are willing to pay to be here, and the actual total and indirect income that comes from things like commercial fisheries, sports fisheries, tourism spending at hotels, restaurants, and other opportunities such as the canoe launching and the boat sales and all of that other activity. And they put it together, it came out to about $5 billion per year in 1995 dollars. Adjusted to inflation, that's about 7.59 in 2012. Now, one of the first jobs I first had when I went to work for the state was in a federal court case in which there was a fellow who was trying to put in a development called the estuaries around Estero Bay. And one of the things that he was doing, even before he had any permits, which he never received, he was cutting mangroves down, and he got caught cutting those mangroves down. And there was a federal case brought by the federal government, and the judge said the only thing he would allow as damages was the loss to the commercial fishery landings. And I calculated for that case, and this has been used in federal court, that based upon the 1970 commercial fishery landings in just that particular area associated with Estero Bay, that was about 12,169 acres per year provided by those mangroves to commercial fishery in 2012 dollars. Of course, I did it in that time in 1970 dollars. That's about 776 million per year for all the mangroves around the Estero Bay system. Now, smaller and shorter mangrove canopies, including those trim canopies that are hedged, this is an example from Captiva, don't provide as much ecosystem services. And work I did when I was in the Department of Natural Resources, the aquatic preserves, I measured the differential of the productivity and the habitat values provided by those. And so if you hedge your mangroves, it gives you about $618 per year in 2012 dollars. But if you leave the mangroves grow, and in this example you see the hedged mangroves here, this is the actual forest before it was hedged. That provides you about $28,000 per acre per year. So how we manipulate the environment will affect the ecosystem services provided by it. But none of that reflected, that was just commercial fisheries landing, all the other recreational fisheries value, which are about 5.6 to 6.5 times the primary sales of commercial fisheries in our area. People spend a lot more money per fish sports fishing than they do commercial fishing. A part of it's efficiency. About 146,000, 169,000 per acre per year in 2012 dollars. Nowhere does that include all the erosion protection values, the tourist income, the bird watching, canoeing, recreational, water quality enhancement, water pollution cleaning, the privacy screening. You know, mangroves make it so that you've got some privacy in your backyard and people can't see what you're doing. Habitat value of those mangroves to endangered and threatened species. Putting all these together gives you a total ecosystem services value. Also, the mangroves in the salt marsh in our area are one of the most efficient carbon sinks in the world. 50 times more carbon in their soil by area than tropical forests, 10 times more than temperate forests. We could, if we chose to undertake it and enter the carbon sequestering market, have much more effective carbon sequestering dollars here than they have in these other systems that they have in Europe and up in the northern part of the US. And our slash pine does a very good job too. So just for the CHNEP area that I mentioned earlier, you get 30 million tons of carbon fixation per year. Also, beach visitor expenditures. Separate from all of these other things I've talked about, what people will pay just to be on the beach in Southwest Florida is a very high value. With 72 linear miles of beach in the total CHNEP, it's about $10.84 million spent per mile in 2002 dollars. This came from the Tourist Development Bureau's figures, such as the Lee County Tourist Development Bureau. So that came out to about $780 million in the 2002, about $1 billion in 2012 dollars from people wanting to be at the beaches. Of course, what's happened this year where the water's not been as good around the beaches, that figure would be calculated lower because of the damages that came from the releases in the Caloosahatchee River, or the damages that come when people would, for example, if our local fertilizer ordinances were repealed by the state in preemption and we had more polluted waters. That's an example when our waters were in a much better shape. So, in my work, I've calculated the total economic value for all of the mangroves around all of the Charlotte Harbor figured in this map here in the study area. it comes out to $49 billion in 2012. For seagrass beds, about $6.1 billion. Different habitats do different ecosystem services, and I examine in each of these cases all the different ecosystem services and do the summations. They're mapped here in green, the seagrass beds. Salt marshes, which we have a lot less acres of, only 14,000 acres, about $77.25 million in 2012 dollars. But I want to point out that as I do these individual calculations, the value of habitats is not just in and of themselves, but how they connect to each other. And Southwest Florida is really made up of a patchwork quilt of habitats drawn together by the thread of water. And proper hydrology makes the proper connections to make these habitats function. So I had a grant from the Elizabeth Wardway Dunn Foundation, which was matched by the Charlotte Harbor National Estuary Program, and I had assistance mediated through the Sanibel Captiva Conservation Foundation. And with $40, we had, not $40, $40,000, we had enough money to do a selected study area, which was Pine Island Sound, Sanibel, Captiva, North Captiva, Cayo Costa, and the tidal extents of Pine Island, this area outlined in red for this one estuary. And we combined maps. It took a bit of work to produce this map, which is the first map for our region which has both the subsurface and the surface land covers combined. So I have all land covers indicated for that particular time period in the best available mapping. And then I was able, by each habitat type, specifically calculate it for this area using the dollar values from this region, not the averages across the globe, to show the ecosystem services landscape across the study area. And what shows up is the beaches have the highest value, that's thin strip of red. The oranges are the mangroves, the seagrasses, the salt marshes. And then even the nearshore waters have high ecosystem services value for our region to a large extent because of the fisheries and the value of the shell collecting and the attraction of people coming to do the shell collecting, particularly on Sanibel. So this is what the EcoServe, or the ecosystem landscape is and ecosystem services in 2012. Then with this tool, you can project into the future. So now we took the existing already approved land use maps and took them out to build out in 2030. And this is what happens to the ecosystem services landscape after you build out all the places which are already approved for development to the extent of the development that's been approved. And then I looked at climate change and added a foot of sea level rise over this landscape, which at the soonest will happen about 2065, but may be out further into the future, depending on the rates of sea level rise, and they're changing. As you're probably all aware, we are in sea level rise right now. It has been going. We had about 8 to 9 inches in the last 100 years. So taking that up to about a foot, 100 plus year, or at most average figures, this is what the area would be under 1 foot of sea level rise in blue. And then I can calculate the ecosystem services landscape with that area being underwater. And what I did uniquely in this study, which no other study has done before, is accounted for the fact that shallow water also has its ecosystem services value. All other sea level rise studies treat, once it's underwater, it doesn't have a value. So we accounted for what it wasn't anymore, but also what it then became. So that's an example of that recalculation, but the bottom line here is that for that study area in 2012, it was about $7 billion in ecosystem services value. When you did the build out, changing habitats into other land uses, it came down to about $5 billion. And with sea level rise, it went to about $4 billion. So you have a decrease in the ecosystem services with the combination of extreme development associated with the climate change. And we can project this for all kinds of land use changes. So if you show me an alternate land use for a particular area, say in the city of Bonita Springs, we can calculate its existing ecosystem services value and what its future ecosystem services value would be under different alternatives. I also did this at, I had the Audubon Society of Southwest Florida ask what are the ecosystem services value of all the Conservation 2020 lands that Lee County had purchased, because there was an interest in that. and it came out to about $628,865,027.93 in 2012 dollars for all the existing Conservation 2020 lands. And what they were getting is about $3 return for every dollar they invested in Conservation 2020. So the next steps is we can use this method in a number of different places. I have grant applications in right now in 2 different places to try to do this for all of our region, from Collier County all the way up to Sarasota County. Don't know if we'll get those grants or not. But in the interim, I'd be happy to work with people who would be interested in seeing this method used for futures of sea level rise, altered hydrology, climate instability, geomorphic change, any land use changes. If they wanted to alter or add infrastructure, we can now do this based upon the calibration we've been able to employ in the study Elizabeth Ordway Dunn had provided us funding for. And so I do the field work, and the fellow down there with the snook is my GIS fellow who does all the maps you saw. So it's a 2-man operation, and just want to let you know about ecosystem services and that we have a new tool in our region in which we can further examine them. Thank you very much.
Jim, well done. Thank you very much. Thanks, Bill. All right, did anybody have any questions for Jim while he's here?
Quick,
Yes,
just
go ahead.
a quick comment. Mr. Feeney, there's a snook, my man.
It's like,
Is Matt here?
15 minutes presentation. Look at the size
Snook.
of that fish.
Yeah, it boils down to that, doesn't it? Well, yeah, I wanted to ask you, so I'm not quite sure I understand how you've studied the land use along the coast. How do you do that across, all of the county? I mean, how do you do that on, you've determined cost calculations for watery, let me put it just like wetlands and coastal areas, but how do you do that on dry land? I mean, you'd have to go through and do the same thing. Have you already done that?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
I had a short presentation, so I didn't show you every single step that I did. But we actually have calculations done for developed landscapes. So, for example, in this study, in Sanibel, they have a very interesting land use code. They have properties which have no lawns. They have properties with the kind of standard lawns you're used to with 2 queen palms. And a lot of their properties in the newer areas have native landscape. So we calculated the individual ecosystem service value of each of those different types of residential. And they had provided us the relative distribution of that residential so we could map out, for example, a property on the western end of the island which had a higher ecosystem services value because they basically had a house pad with tropical hardwood hammock around it versus one that was on the east end of the island, which is a house with a gravel yard. And we calculated for commercial, industrial. When I did the work for the Conservation 2020, worked out the calculations for cypress swamp, for wet prairie, for freshwater marshes, for the pine flatwoods, and all of those services that were available. You need to do some more direct calibration as you go into a specific area. So, for example, if I would do Estero Bay, I'd go back to some figures and make sure that I got the dollar value spent associated with the beaches specifically here, because I've been using averages when you go out to the whole CHNEP. And I'd calculate a little further the direct tourist expenditure within the limits of the city. But you can recalibrate as long as your data is good, and we have some very great data here for our tourist development, for our recreational commercial spending. Everyone's always keeping track of their economic figures, so I can draw upon that information. We had other people at the Regional Planning Council to help me gather that and pull it together.
Jim, thank you very much. It's really interesting, and I'm sure we're going to avail ourselves of your talents. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Everybody, please thank him again, please. Okay. At this time, Council, I'd like to ask, before we go to the consent agenda, item 11A is a continuation, or is a continuation of appeal filed by Mr. Lopez there. I'd like to get a motion and a second to go ahead and allow for that in continuation so that they can go about their business. And
So moved.
there's a motion, a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any other discussion? Roll call, please.
Councilwoman Martin?
Aye.
Mayor Nelson?
Aye.
Councilman Simmons?
Aye.
Councilwoman Simons?
Aye.
Councilman Longcart?
Aye.
Councilman McIntosh.
Aye.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Lopez. We'll see you in a while. Hopefully we'll work something out, okay? Okay, council, now we have the consent agenda. Look at it very carefully. We have items A through I. Is there anything on there that you would like to pull for discussion? Anybody? Anything? New?
I like to look at H.
H?
Yes,
Item H. Is there anything else?
that's it. I'll move the balance.
There's a motion to
Second.
move the remainder, and there's a second. All's in favor, or excuse me, I'm sorry, I'm going back to 5 years ago.
Oh, dear. All
Roll
in
call,
favor.
please.
Mayor Nelson.
Aye.
Councilman Simmons.
Aye.
Councilwoman Simons.
Aye.
Councilman Longcart.
Aye.
Councilman McIntosh. Aye. Councilwoman Martin.
Aye.
Okay, Bill, item H.
Yes, this is in reference to the landscaping on 41. We already do business with that vendor, correct? The landscape company? I think Matt. someone
So,
else.
yes.
Yes.
Yes, the budget is.
Yes, sir.
Okay. I just wondered if, since this is the only other, they have one more contract with us,
Yes, sir.
and that's for 41 in North.
It's for Old 41 north of Rosemary Drive.
Okay. My question is, he's now got another contract, which is okay, it's fine. Did we attempt in any way to bundle everything together, or that would probably be good on the television show, wouldn't it?
That's something we've thought about in the future. It's one of the things I've discussed with my staff, but kind of differing opinion. You know, sometimes it's better to get more people in the mix so that they remain on point. If you get down to one contractor that you're dealing with grouped together, you may not get the best level of service. It is something, though, that we'll be looking at in the future in terms of grouping some areas more logically together, probably as we go forward with the landscaping initiative.
Thank you, Matt.
Yep. Thank you very much.
I'll move that item.
There's a motion to approve that item H. Is there a second?
Second.
There's a second. Any other discussion? Roll call, please.
Mayor Nelson.
Aye.
Councilman Simmons.
Aye.
Councilwoman Simons.
Aye.
Councilman Longcart.
Aye.
Councilman McIntosh.
Aye.
Councilwoman Martin.
Aye.
Okay, Audrey, we have item 8, first reading and public hearing of the following ordinance.
Thank you. I'll read the first one. This is an ordinance of the City of Bonita Springs, Florida, calling for and ordering a binding referendum to be held on February 25, 2014, to determine whether a majority of the electors within the area proposed to be annexed are in favor of annexation. The referendum for annexation is in a portion of Pelican Landing as described in this ordinance. Assignment to City Council District 1 upon the effective date of the annexation, requesting that the Lee County Supervisor of Elections to conduct the election in accordance with the state laws and regulations, providing mail ballot language, directing that the notice of election be prepared and given, providing for severability, scrivener's errors, and effective date. This is a first reading. The second reading will be on October 16th, 2013, in these chambers, starting at 9 a.m. I have reviewed the affidavit of publication, and it is legally sufficient.
Thank you very much. Council, do you have any
I'll move-
questions before we go to public comment? Do you have any questions or comments? At this time, we'll go to public comment. Anyone wishing to speak to this item that already hasn't, or if you wish to speak again, please come forward.
Rick Steinmeier, I believe this was a volunteer, that they came to us rather than we going to them on this annexation.
Thank you very much. Anyone else this time? Seeing none, public comments closed. Council, what's your pleasure?
Move forward.
We move the item, and
Would
there's a
second
second,
that.
and there's a second. Any other discussion?
Just real quickly,
Yes.
I think it's wonderful that this is an offer. This isn't a land grab. This is nothing like that. This is an offer to the residents of Pelican Landing to make their community whole. And I think it's appropriate. So I'm very glad council's moving forward with this, and that we had the Pelican Landing Association ask us to move forward.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councilman. We have a motion and a second, and roll call, please.
Councilman Simmons.
Aye.
Councilwoman Simons.
Aye.
Councilman Longcart.
Aye.
Councilman McIntosh.
Aye.
Councilwoman Martin.
Aye.
Mayor Nelson.
Aye. Okay, Audrey, now we have first reading of the following zoning ordinance, and there is no public comment on zoning ordinance.
That is correct. I did ask the clerk when, it's the 14th. And I'm sorry, I just needed to ask a question there. I'll read the first one, a zoning ordinance of the City of Bonita Springs, Florida, considering a request by Cape Hickory RPD amendment, formerly known as Bonita Villas, to amend zoning ordinance number 03-13, Bonita Villas Residential Plan Development, as subsequently amended to remove condition 4 from zoning ordinance number 03-13, requiring that all structures, including models, be sprinklered on land located at 5841, 5831, 5821, 5811, and 5801 Cape Hickory Court, Bonita Springs, Florida, 34134, on 1.52 more or less acres, providing for an effective date. This is a first reading. No public comment is taken at this time. The second reading will be on October 14th, 2013, starting at 9 a.m. in these chambers.
Okay, Council, would you like to move this forward?
Sure.
A motion to move forward, second. Any other discussion? Roll call, please.
Councilwoman Simons?
Aye.
Councilman Longcor?
Aye.
Councilman McIntosh?
Aye.
Councilwoman Martin?
Aye.
Councilman Simmons?
Aye.
Mayor Nelson?
Aye. Okay, item B, another zoning ordinance.
And if I can read that into the record, this is a zoning ordinance of the City of Bonita Springs, Florida, considering a request by Center of the Arts, Bonita Springs, to rezone from mobile home, two-family conservation, C1A commercial, C1 commercial, to community facilities plan development to allow a performing arts facility on land located at 27911 Vermont Street, Bonita Springs, Florida, 34135, on 4.169 more or less acres, providing for an effective date. This is a first reading. No public comment is taken at this time. The second reading will be heard on Monday, October 14th, 9 a.m. in these chambers.
Mayor, it would be my pleasure to move this to second.
We have a motion and a second. Any other discussion?
Wonderful.
Roll call, please.
Councilman Longcor?
Aye.
Councilman McIntosh?
Aye.
Councilwoman Martin?
Aye.
Mayor Nelson?
Aye.
Councilman Simmons?
Aye.
Councilwoman Simons?
Aye.
Okay. Audrey, is that all you got for us under that?
Yes, sir.
Good. At this time, we will have public comment on any item. Please come forward. Anyone wishing to speak on any item at this time? Well, pretty much any item. Go ahead. Sorry.
Good evening. For the record, Nicole Johnson here on behalf of the Conservancy of Southwest Florida. First, I'd like to thank you for inviting Jim Beaver to be here and present on ecosystem services. I think it's important that we're periodically reminded that protecting the environment is not just good for the environment, but it's good for the economy and quality of life. And Jim said a lot of very important things, but relative to what I want to speak on, what really caught my attention was his comment that proper hydrology creates proper connections. At your September 18th meeting, you were provided a presentation by the DRGR consultants regarding their plan and recommendations for moving forward. You also heard from a number of members of the public as to concerns they had with the consultants' final recommendations and how implementation of a new Imperial Community District could impact the entire Bonita Springs community. A number of speakers, including the Conservancy, expressed dissatisfaction about the consultants' claim that, among other things, no flooding should be anticipated if an additional 6,300 plus units, along with additional intensification in commercial use, would be approved. From the Conservancy's perspective, the biggest issue facing Bonita Springs, especially East Bonita, is water quality and flooding. And any solution must utilize the expertise of a hydrologist. We had recommended at that time that the city first create a watershed management plan before moving forward with any kind of intensification in the DRGR. And we still stand by that statement, but I do want to clarify this doesn't mean going back to the drawing board or starting at square one. There are a number of studies that are already out there that have been completed that really look at this water quality and the flooding issues. Most notably, the South Lee County Watershed Plan Update and Greg Rawls' report. These studies provide specific technical recommendations for projects necessary to improve water quality and decrease the risk of flooding in Bonita Springs. These studies require solutions that cross property boundaries and, in some cases, cross jurisdictional boundaries. An implementation plan based on these processes and these projects need to be really the foundation for moving forward. For example, the South Lee County Watershed Plan Update states that the most effective alternative in reducing flood elevation in the Imperial River is to increase detention east of I-75. So where is the storage going to be located? How will this type of solution intersect with the other structural and non-structural solutions in the study and in the Greg Raw report? And where will such projects be located? How will you create flowways, greenways, and buffers? How will any increase in density impact the findings in the Raw report that state the groundwater flow modeling has shown that although the Bonita Springs Marl is present at varying thicknesses across the study area, the linkage through the Bonita Springs Marl is significant. Significant. So these are the next questions, and they need a hydrologist to answer them. And you should not increase any density until you do that. We thank you for your consideration on this. I believe that Roger Kopp, who is the primary author of the South Lee County Watershed Plan Update, has agreed to come and speak to you. We would ask that you invite him to your next meeting, have him speak, really take a look at these hydrologic issues as your next step, and don't move forward with any increase or intensity until that time. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anyone else this time? Please come. Oh, yes, there you are.
Deborah McLean, publisher of the Banana Peel. I'm very interested in Mr. Beaver's presentation that he can allocate dollars to leaving the swamp the way it is. I would find that very interesting, since we have been bombarded with the words impact fees and economic development and increased density. So I would like to see a comparison, which means Mr. Beaver could be retained to do a study of our portion or of the DRGR or all the land in the city, so that we do not become an overdevelopment chaos like Tampa. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anyone else this time? Please come forward.
Good evening. I'm Dave Gallagher, Cedar Creek, and Be Safe.
Hey, Dave.
Just like to make a few comments about the DRGR situation. And I'll give you my bottom line up front. I hate to say this, but I think we need another study. We need one that focuses on water issues, not density issues. Ones that use quantifiable criteria, one that explicitly states all assumptions, and one that's conducted by experts in the hydrology area. To me, it's clear that most people who are worried about developing DRGR are mainly worried about water in some form, whether it's flooding, quality, storm runoffs, drinking, impact on the Gulf, whatever. Water is the key. None of us were satisfied when the study author said that we will probably not notice any change in flooding, regardless of which density option is chosen. To me, that says the study did not look at the right options. The study should have looked at options that tackled the water-related issues, not the density issues. In my days, the studies program in the Pentagon involved with many studies. One of the hardest part of the study business is gaining agreement on what measurable criteria will be used to judge the goodness of the alternatives. For an idea, possible criteria might be the 20-year cost projection, numbers of acres impacted, the amount of pollutants removed, numbers of roads impacted, number of beach closure days, etc. I don't know what the measures are, but they need to be quantifiable and understandable. I claim no knowledge about this area, but we need to quantify the criteria. Another hard part of any study is identification of study assumptions. These cannot be hidden. They must be stated explicitly and agreed to before starting any study. For example, we may assume that the stair will make no changes that will affect the sheet water down here in Bonita. Another assumption there'll be no impact flowing to Collier County from our part of the state. Another assumption could be that the sewer system will be installed within the next 5 years. What should we assume about replenishment of the near surface aquifer? Maybe another assumption might involve the development of improvements in the Bonita Springs utility acreage. So what are these explicit study assumptions? To help start thinking about this problem, I can propose several hypothetical options. Option one might be cleaning out existing streams and creeks and doing something about drainage under I-75. Option two might be the creation of 2 or 3 massive retention ponds, which is probably a very bad idea. Option three may be the installation of something that functions as a sump pump field that will prevent flooding through specific areas. And certainly one of the options has to be do no harm. What's the current situation? So in short, we need people to get knowledge. We need people who are knowledgeable about water issues working on solutions to our water problems. We need another study. We need one that focuses on water issues, uses quantifiable criteria, explicitly states all assumptions, and is conducted by experts in the area. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anyone else this time? Please come forward.
Good evening. I'm Ed Fitzgerald, a resident of Bonita Springs. And I'm here to ask this council to rethink just what our young city presently is and what it might become if the DRGR development is implemented. Bonita Springs incorporated not too many years ago in order to gain direct control of our future and to escape from the neglect that we felt on the Lee County governance. There was no mention at that time that anyone wanted to change this town to the degree suggested by the plan before us, nor was there any indication that the DRGR would be developed by Lee County. Bonita was proud that we were becoming a city, small, yes, but with the great character possessed by most small cities. We believed in governance light. We knew the city would grow within its city limits, and that growth is going on right now and is much appreciated. But a development of upwards of 20,000 residents means the end of Bonita Springs as most of us knew it. We most likely would become 4 conclaves of residents without ties to a common bond of a city. Old 41 might remain undeveloped and stagnated as having little attraction to the other parts of the city. The gated communities east of Bonita Grande Road would feel less a part of Bonita Springs. The DRGR itself, with 20,000 residents and 200,000 square feet, a possible 200,000 square feet of commercial space, would have little concern for the rest of Bonita, and when and if taxed to mitigate flood potential for the city, they would resent being part of the city. Hickory Boulevard, our own crown jewel, with the beautiful beaches along those homes, might feel that they are being taken advantage of with the impact of so many people into the beaches. The council should move very slowly and carefully with a plan that has the potential to change Bonita so completely. The influx of hordes of people, thousands of cars, traffic jams, crowded beaches, and a worsening of flood potentials and questionable water supply and quality should be a major concern of this council. I thank you for listening.
Thank you very much, sir. Anyone else this time? Please come forward.
Fred Forbes, good evening. You guys are going to be faced with a major decision, which is to whether to move forward with developing the DRGR or not. And that's going to be a tough decision. I think it's probably as monumental task as what we face with the homeless shelter situation. Now, I've got a proposal tonight that actually covers both bets. One is that you're going to not approve it, and the other is that you're going to approve it. Either way, the community wins, and I think the people east of I-75 are entitled to what I'm going to propose. We need at least a 1-year moratorium of doing anything in that DRGR until a proper flood study by a good independent company like did the South Florida Water Management Study of 2009 on southern Lee County is done. Also, the extension of the 2005 aquifer study, which was not very much referred to in the reports of this study that you just had done. We also need to have further impact studies done on the design criteria that a developer would have to use to actually handle stormwater in there. Because if you use the current standard, which is used on all the other land, which is what all that South Florida Water Management requires, it's not going to work because you've got many times more, probably 3 times more water flows in than falls out of the sky, at least double. And the other thing is that that would give you a chance to get a proper storm water management plan in place in Bonita Spring, and then every year start funding its development. If we don't have that, if you turn it down, let's say, which would be what I would hope you would do, then you're going to be proceeding with what the existing design requirements are for developments, and for sure we're going to get flooding and other issues. On the other hand, if you turn it down, then what's going to happen is March or April, they're going to come back in here with a proposal to redo the mines anyway. So if you have the moratorium in place, we've got time to work on this properly, and then you get good, independent, that's the key, independent. That means not the stormwater people that design all these developments. You got to get people that are independent of that. Same way on the ecologist, the hydrologist, all those people, they can come up with some good answers, and I think that we're entitled to expect that with the investments that have been made already out there. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Good evening. My name is Patricia Zimmerman, and I live in Bonita Springs. I'm speaking on behalf of Be Safe Bonita. We are requesting that the developing of the DRGR be placed on the election ballot so that our residents can decide if it is in the best interest of our great city. Personally speaking, I say no to the development of the DRGR. I feel the negative impact far outweighs any positives. The threat of flooding is very real. In yesterday's paper, Mayor Nelson made a statement concerning the annexation of Pelican Landing, saying, and I quote, "It is also important to note that we aren't offering annexation into the city of Bonita Springs because we need to expand our tax base. Because we don't. This city has been financially robust for its entire 14 years of existence," unquote. If we don't need the tax base, why do we need to develop the DRGR? In conclusion, let's keep our small town charm. Please remember, small city, small problems. Big city, big problems. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yes, that was very nice. Thank you very much. Hi.
Hi, good evening. Carolyn Gallagher. Many people are tired of waiting for a determination of how we will use this Northeast Quadrant DRGR that is now designated reduced density. We've heard motivating reasons to build, get revenue, and build some more. We are sensitive to money talks. To me, it seems, though, that we are ready to jump without knowing all the facts. Unfortunately, the Baracco study doesn't present the whole picture. One, the overwhelming fear of the community is that the flooding will be worsened with a buildup in the DRGR. The Baracco study maintains, but doesn't promise, that the increased development will not make flooding worse, nor will it make it better. Should we accept this when there is no proof? Let's work on a flooding solution or mitigation before increasing the DRGR's density. Two, there are cities north of us that draw from the same aquifers before the water gets to us. What are these cities planning for their growth and water usage? We could build and years later find our water supplies being depleted from the north. We can't solve our problem without knowing their plans. We should start with Estero and Fort Myers. We heard that Lee County has worked their DRGR issue and allowed some uses. We should have a Lee County representative talk to us about this and provide their lessons learned. Three, our city is trying to make historic Old 41 into a focal point for Bonita Springs. We should emphasize infill within the Old 41 area and in other areas that are already built before allowing the buildup in the DRGR. It's well known to city planners that building outward from the city center without infill causes cities to die, creates urban sprawl, exacerbates pollution, particularly through automobile use, etc. Number four, I would venture to say that most of Bonita's population has happily escaped from larger northern cities for a respite from overcrowding, traffic, pollution, corruption, and of course the weather. Plans for adding up to 10,000 homes in the DRGR are not what they want. 5, the assumption that there is no value in unimproved land is wrong, and we need to be able to put a monetary value on it. Often money saved is considered a value. For example, cost of avoidance, because these lands help with flooding runoff or recharging aquifers. Certainly the land, as is, works to mitigate the floods in other areas. I do appreciate the briefing tonight from Mr. Beaver. He gives us some hope about valuing that land in the DRGR. Remember that if there is more flooding after the builders build, our city residents will be left with the problem and the taxes. The builders will have their money and we will be stuck. What do we do today? What we do here today will last forever. We need to be prudent and take our time. It doesn't matter that this has been ongoing for a few years. We haven't found the answer, but we will eventually. Be patient. Please wait until more facts can be uncovered before making a decision to increase density on the DRGR. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anyone else this time? Please come forward.
Most of the comments have been quite serious, so I'll try to be funny. I'm Deborah McLean, publisher of the Banana Peel, and the bananas have been mobilized, just as we were on the shelter.
Okay. Anyone else this time? Please come forward.
Hey guys, my name's Curtis Clausen, C-L-A-W-S-O-N. I'm a resident of Hickory.
I'm going to have to ask you to pick that podium up and hold it up.
You're a tall fella.
I'm going to ask you all to go ahead and stand up. I can't see you. Just a short guy.
Touche, my friend, touche.
I want to say before I start, now I'll try not to get whatever this light is here going in my face.
It's kind of mind of its own.
However sharp the disagreements we may have, and you don't know me, but I do respect the service to your community. I've spent my life in the private sector, and those that do what you are doing have my respect whether I disagree with you or not. And I want you to remember that as we go forward. I don't want us to fight each other. I don't think it's a good idea. On the island, everybody I talk to doesn't want this in the DRG. We don't want bad water. We don't really believe the studies. We want less sprawl, more good water. And if you're going to change it, we want you to be 100% sure. Straight 100% sure. What's the rush? We're going to mobilize. We've been asleep. I'm awake. We're in the game. It's not just about us. Bad water this year, the summer's been bad with the water. People put dikes and dams up to retain water. It leads to bad outcomes, whether it's in Lake Charles, Lake Powell, or here. It doesn't go well. We're asking y'all to slow up. We don't want to spend all this money on consultants and the lawyers that we're hiring now. We don't want to do it. We're in the same city here. Let's avoid the Donnybrook. That's what I say. Y'all slow down a little bit. This ain't a slam dunk. And we don't want to have a big battle where we don't need one. So we're asking y'all to stop, or at the very minimum, slow down till you're 100% sure, so we're not fighting you and you're not fighting us, even though we do it in a respectful way. And that's what I'm asking. Slow down.
Thank you very much. Anyone else this time? Please come forward.
Wow. In other words, by the way, I'm Alberto Bayer, for the record. In other words, this is your wake-up call. I'm so glad that this fine gentleman happened to go ahead of me just now. It's indeed miraculous. I want to commend every single one of the people in my beloved Bonita Springs that came to this microphone, because your graceful presentations are reflective of a significant amount of thought on something that really doesn't require brain surgeon caliber IQ. The reason why countries like Switzerland, which is where I was brought up from an educational perspective in my preparatory years in boarding school, and then followed by Culver Military Academy, and then by another Ivy League school in this wonderful country, which is Babson College in Wellesley, Massachusetts, is because people like the people that just came to the microphone, who are sensible and are characterized by decency. It's a matter of character, in a nutshell. If these people were sitting in the seats that I am looking as I speak, this city would run very differently, because it's conscionable behavior, Mr. Simmons, as your behavior
I'm sorry,
just
you're gonna
now
have to direct your comments to
was,
me or
okay,
to council
Mr.
in
Mayor.
general. Thank you very much.
As you failed to draw the healthy boundary just now when Mr. Simmons was disrespectful to the resident in front of you, who has taken time away from his quality agenda to favor you with an earful. So the least that I expect is for the receptivity of the elected council to be there, instead of talking while I'm addressing him and you and the rest of the elected council. Having said all that, once we go forward with the evaluation that this matter merits, the answer is going to be very categorically no go. It's that simple. Because we are already in a point where we're in excess density. The contamination associated with the mismanagement of this city, not only in terms of the pollution associated with the eco matters, but also with regards to everything else that's polluting, which has been indeed very eloquently articulated by my predecessors here. So we must make a conscionable decision in this regard. And it's not a hard one. And we need to start doing some corrective maintenance to offset the mismanagement that has already taken place. So let's follow the example of the Swiss or of the Germans and see what they do when they engage in this kind of creative planning, so that we can use them as mentors and favor our descendants with the best case scenario dividends that they merit. I will be back.
Okay. Next speaker, please.
Good evening. My name is John Spear, 30-year resident of Bonita Springs and formerly one of you guys. I came today not at all intending to speak. I've spoken in front of this group many times, and the first thing I always do is I make it very clear who I'm speaking for, whether it's for myself, whether it's for an organization or for a client. I was here, planned on being here to, in case there were any questions about the Center for the Arts and the zoning case. Fortunately, there wasn't, so I had no reason to speak. A little bit over a year ago, I joined an organization called Be Safe, and I not only joined the organization, but I wrote 2 not inconsequential checks, not huge checks, but and I haven't heard from that organization for over a year. I joined that organization because I was concerned about my neighborhood and about the implications of a 280-bed homeless shelter adjoining our community. That has become history, and I think you guys did a remarkable job in terms of addressing that. I haven't read the DRGR study. I haven't really followed it. I'm not here to express either for or against, make any recommendations or anything else. But I just must say that you had 2 people come up here and said they spoke for me today as a member of Be Safe. I'm still a member of Be Safe, I think. I haven't heard from them for a year. And I think it's important that when people stand up here and speak in front of this group, that they speak and they say they're representing a group that they really are. So I just would raise that. I fully recognize the 2 folks that spoke here from Cedar Creek. I'm going to have two pretty unhappy neighbors by standing up and saying this, but I think it's really important that when people stand up here, they let you know whether they're speaking for themselves, and if they're speaking for an organization, that there's really an organization behind them. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Anyone else this time? Please come forward.
Yes, Alex Grant, 11851 East Terry Street, former member of the local planning agency, former city councilman, and I'm putting on my hat as both a chemist and a soil scientist at this particular moment, of which I have degrees from colleges in both areas. I just wanted to comment on making a suggestion that the article in the September 23rd, 2013 of Chemical and Engineering News, a publication of the American Chemical Society, I'm a member of that group, page 2830. I hope that you had all received a copy of this article. It's called A Powerful Dot of Solar Energy. The reason I wanted to make certain that you had a copy of this article, while I realize this may be highly technical, I would like to plant a seed in your minds that this might be a positive application for property in the DRGR area without a detrimental effect on overpopulation in this area. Please remember that this area is at the funnel of a 320 square mile Imperial River watershed without the effects of the Estero River watershed on top of that. So we have a problem there of water coming from other areas, Immokalee area, Arcadia area, LaBelle area, Lehigh Acres, all funneling to here. So it's not just our own water. Okay, so if the city would work with maybe BSU and the chemists, physicists, and chemical and electrical engineers at Florida Gulf Coast University, this might give an increased economic value for the DRGR area without causing problems with flooding to the residents of this area, and I happen to be an owner of Grant Swamp. Thank you.
Anyone else this time? Please come forward.
Hello, my name is Cecile Sagisi. I feel this is going to be light compared to what I've been listening to all evening. But I own a salon west of 41, and it's Tiger's Den Aveda Salon. And the issue that I have is that we can't put up a feather flag more than 4 times a year for 2 weeks at a time. To us, it just prevents us from gathering more business because we're on the L of the building of Windsor Road and Bonita Beach Road. And when we do put this big, beautiful feather flag up that's Aveda, and to me, it beautifies the city. I know there might have been some ugly ones, but this is a beautiful one. We always get clients that'll come in for the first time and say, I didn't know you were here. Why don't you put this up all the time? I said, we can't. And it's really detrimental to us not to be able to put this feather flag up as much as we would like to. And if we could put it up twice, 2 weeks, every month, that would be fantastic, because in our summer months we die. And the thing, I've even thought of gathering a sign that said Aveda Tiger's Den and holding it myself for a while, because I want to bring business in. I mean, not to be funny, but I mean, I've tried to think of every angle. And the issue is that we can't keep it up for more than 2 weeks, 4 times a year. So I'm at your mercy to consider, having it up longer, because you'll get a little bit more revenue for the town, and I know other people that are in the same predicament, and they said, would you mention me? I can't make it to the meeting. One being Eyes Wide Open, that's just across the street from here. But that's all I'm asking, to consider, you know, having the feather flags, because they're much different than anything else. And I just also want to mention the fact that on some weekends, I guess there are standard sizes that you need to have for signs that can be put up on the lawns. I find a lot of them very offensive, and I find them to cheapen the town. And that's my opinion. So I'm thinking, well, why can't we put the feather flags up that are much more beautiful, and it'll help the businesses to thrive. And I think that's what we're all about, helping each other here. So that's my asking of you people, and I thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Anyone else this time? Please come forward. Seeing none, that's it for public comment at this time. And we are to the city attorney's report. Audrey, what do you have for us tonight?
I thought I gave you enough already.
I thought you did too, but I was just asking to be polite.
Nothing, sir.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, we are up to the city manager's report. Carl.
No report, Mr. Mayor.
I'm sorry. What? That's completely unsatisfactory and unprofessional. And thank you. All right, here we are to mayor and council member items. Item A, request reconsideration of vote. Bill, talk to us.
Okay.
Tell us what you're feeling.
Put it up at your mouth.
Let me begin by saying that at the last meeting, I was on the prevailing side.
Hold on for a second, Bill.
Sure.
Could I ask everyone to please try to keep it down as you're exiting, please, because we're going to continue with the meeting. Thank you very much. Hey, go ahead, Bill.
I was on the prevailing side to continue to work with the county with a study that was going to take 6 to 8 months to complete in reference to the library. After I left here and drove home and was driving home, I was doing a lot of thinking, and I decided after I got home and I looked at all the stuff, all the paperwork, that I would want to rescind what I voted on for that night. So I did contact Audrey Vance, and she was kind enough to provide me with a detailed how that's done, and also some additional information from years past. And I thoroughly understand it, and that this is the kind of work that's put out in this particular case. Audrey Vance, who makes it our job easier because it's thorough and it's clear, and it's a great work that she does for us.
Thank you.
Tonight, we have to, in order to do that, for me to rescind the vote, we have to have all council people here, and obviously Steve Slack is not here. So therefore, I'm going to ask to have it continued till the next meeting, which will be on November the, wait a minute.
October 16th.
I'm sorry, October 16th, and for reconsideration of what my request is.
Okay. And all right, so you're withdrawing your request for now, and you're going to go ahead and ask for it to be put on the following agenda.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Did you have anything else for us this evening?
Perhaps having been involved with this long before I was on council, I understand, I have a good financial background, and I understand that all people try to do the right thing. However, after working with the county for so long, that's 5 years as a city councilman and years before, and watching how they do business, I've been disappointed. And it's unfortunate. It's just that the financial circumstances with the library go back so many years, and you cannot run a business in the private sector like the county runs theirs. That's my own opinion. But the reason why this was brought forward was because the tremendous operating deficits that they have in the library fund, even though we, in the city of Bonita Springs, have given them a lot more, millions more. And it's about competency, and I'm up to here with it. And I feel we can do it inside. Obviously, we have to be relieved of the tax liability that we have now because of the circumstances. But I believe that this council and future councils have the ability to bring it in-house and we can do a better job for the citizens of Bonita Springs, and that's why I've changed my vote. I just can't, I've had enough. I can't wait any longer. And I don't think it's not fair to the people in Bonita Springs. I mean, it's not thousands of dollars, it's millions of dollars. And I know we try to work through the county, but I'll give you another example. Do you remember the beach tags? When we had the beach tags and they snapped it away from us? Remember that one? That's just one incident. So that's why I've changed my position, and I would hope that the rest of the council people would understand where I'm coming from. It has no personal, anything personal with any of the county people, but I happen to think that we can do this, and I don't want to wait another decade to get some improvement down, or get some of the money back. Thank you, Tom.
Okay. At this time, I'm going to go ahead and switch to the other side over here. And Steve, do you have anything today?
No, I'm going to pass today, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Martha, how about you?
Ooh, back and forth. Sweet.
Fancy.
Okay, yeah, fancy. Okay, Mayor, well, first on a sad note, I want people to pray for David Morton. He's very, 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 very ill. And he served on our local planning agency for many years. And he may not be with us much longer, so pray that he will be, and just pray for him to be well. Okay, I like what the lady got up and said about the feather flags, because I agree with her. New things come online, and sometimes we have to look at things and adapt to them. And I agree with her that, these banners that we've been putting on every form of PVC pipes and squares and lumber don't look very good. And I think some of these feather flags look very nice. I'd rather see them than banners. But I don't know if we can, here we go again with the sign ordinance, but to come up with allowing those, because they are different than a snipe sign. And they do look nice. So that I wasn't planning to talk about that. Next. Okay, so I don't know if council's interested in that, but if I could speak to Audrey and Code or whatever and see if we get some ideas going.
We can work with, if you'd like, I can work with community development along with code enforcement to make sure
I think what you need
the
to do is that,
interpretation is correct.
excuse me, and just to address this properly, we need to go ahead and hear from code enforcement, get their opinions on
Yeah.
it, what other cities do, what reasons you may want to do this, what reasons you may not want to do
Sure.
this for everyone.
Absolutely.
So go ahead.
Absolutely, Mayor. And also in that particular condo, I mean, that's a condo. There's some limitations for each building, and they have some problem over there. And again, the trees and everything, they just have a problem at that particular building. I hadn't heard from that person, didn't know she was going to be here, Mayor.
Okay.
But anyhow, it would be good for us every time there's some kind of new thing, or after a few years. Now we're using iPads. Somebody mentioned that about the library. We didn't have those before. iPads, and we had that study done before. So
Okay, what else you got for us?
yeah, thanks. And last, I want to thank you, Council, for approving the first annual Swamp Buggy Race show. We don't have the race yet. Maybe we'll do that. We could do that in the mayor's front yard. But we'll have the first annual Swamp Buggy show in Bonita Springs. I was hoping that all the council members got my little Benson's, birthplace of the Swamp Buggy. If you know Old 41, there's a little corner grocery store down there, and that used to be Frank's Garage. And in 1921, he built his first Swamp Buggy to take people out Everglades hunting. So while you hear a lot of things about this unusual sport being in Naples, it actually started here, folks. So we'll have the 1952 Sam Snead Flying Saucer. And for those people who are aficionados of this kind of thing, that's kind of exciting. There'll be vintage and new swamp buggies. It's a sport for guys who like to, and gals, I guess, who like to monkey around in the garage and put together, something they can go out in the mud in. So it's fun. It's part of our history. And that'll be October 26th. It's free to the public. Everglades Wonder Gardens, 11 to 4. Thank you, Council.
Okay, Councilwoman Janet, what would you like?
Oh, well,
Tell
I've got
us.
my friends with me here again. It's that time. And I just wanted to make it clear because there's been some misconception because every season I bring the big guy out. He's our mascot. The actual duckies that hit the river are these little guys. So I just want to make sure everybody's aware of that. But Riverfest is going to be an awesome event. Mark your calendars for Saturday, the October 19th. The canoe and kayak races will be in the morning going down the river. The duckies are going to hit the river at 1 o'clock, and then at 4 o'clock we have the traditional fish fry in the evening, and it's just an awesome day. Lots of stuff to do, so I hope to see everybody there. And then I just want to say shout out to our Parks and Recreation staff because on Friday, October 18th, they're going to have a pink day, and that is in honor of Breast Cancer Awareness Month, and they're going to have all sorts of events and things going on with pink on that Friday. So for more information on that, you can contact the Parks and Rec staff to find out everything that they're doing, but it's pretty awesome. So thank you.
Thank you very much.
I dressed to look like the
Peter,
duck.
what do you have for us?
I want to thank Councilman John Spear for being here tonight. He's served in this seat here for 4 years and was very active before he even sat here and is continuing to be active. So thank you, John, for that. And I don't know if you can pick it up here, but anybody that knows me, I think Carl knows this, but some others. My wife always dresses me or buys my clothes. I should say she buys my
She
clothes.
dresses you.
She
dresses you.
Yes,
Yeah.
well, she buys my clothes, and she went out today and bought this pink shirt. So in honor of
Good.
Breast Cancer Awareness Month, I just wanted to. There's a lot of good work being done there, and you know, just hats off for everything that's being done. Next week, Carl and I will be going up to the Florida League of Cities meeting in Orlando.
I'm going.
And Martha will be there, and just want to reiterate that we're going to be having a discussion, giving a presentation to the league up there, and ask them to adopt expanded gaming in the state of Florida to make that one of their legislative priorities this year. So hopefully we'll be coming back with good news on that soon. It'll need final approval at the November meeting. And just on a personal note, I want to mention my grandfather, Dr. Eric Simmons, who on October 12th, 1913 was born. Unfortunately, he passed away 15 years ago, but I am flying up to New Hampshire soon to commemorate what would have been his 100th birthday. I love you, Grampy, and I know you and Grammy are keeping an eye on us. Thanks.
All right, thank you very much. Just a couple of things here. Been a lot of comments tonight, and I appreciate all your comments and all your opinions. And but I have to interject something here. And I know from a lot of people's standpoints, they haven't been through the whole thing since 2000. But I want to remind everyone that we started the conversation. We started the first DRGR study in 2000, in the year 2000. Now, I'm not saying we should do anything. And quite frankly, when it came around this time around, I was like, really? We're going to talk about this again? I really didn't want to go through it again. Personally, that's what I felt. But so far as there being any rush to judgment here, I don't think that they can be characterized as a rush to judgment. And I know it may feel like that to some people because all of a sudden they see a study and this is all new to them or whatever. But rest assured, this subject has been beat to death in every which way. And I truly believe in my heart that this is just one of those things that no matter what comes out, no matter what study gets done, you can study this and study this and study this. And if it comes out with a result that you agree with, you're going to think that's great. If it comes out with a result that you disagree with, you're going to think it's bogus. That's what this is. I mean, and that's okay. That's human nature. I understand that. I'm guilty of the same thing sometimes, quite often. We're all human. But I don't want anyone to leave here thinking that this is a rush to judgment by staff, mismanagement by staff. Staff is simply trying to give you information as a community so that you can make a decision or not. That's all it is. So please take it in the spirit that it has been given to you by staff, which is, look, we know this has been hanging around out there and it's been a question. Let's either put it to rest or let's do something creative, whatever you want to do. but there's just no need for a call to arms. There just isn't. That place has been out there for a long time. It's going to be out there for a longer. So just want to let everybody know that. We're obviously not in any hurry. Okay?
Hey, since you brought that up.
Oh, please don't say anything.
I just heard this thing and people ask me this. So when are we going to decide this thing, or when's it coming back on the agenda again? I heard it might be October, and I hear it might be November.
Okay, well, hopefully never, okay, so far as
I'm
I'm
liking that.
concerned.
Okay, good.
But this is being my time to speak.
Yes, sir. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. I just wanted to put in my 2 cents there. Okay, and now we will go along to the, I believe approval of the minutes. Anyone else?
Approve.
Motion to approve, and a second. Any other comment?
Could I have an answer to my question?
I beg your pardon?
May I have an answer to my question from staff?
Carl, Councilwoman Simons would like to know when this will be brought back to council.
We're thinking the first meeting in November.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you very much. There's been a motion, a second. Roll call.
Councilman McIntosh? Aye. Councilwoman Martin?
Aye.
Mayor Nelson?
Aye.
Councilman Simmons?
Aye.
Councilwoman Simons?
Aye.
Councilman Longbridge?
Aye.
Okay, one other thing, while I'm rattling the cage here a little bit, about this library thing here. I'm going to let you all know that I have, in fact, talked to the people that were so good to work on the library task force. And I'm well aware that you are well aware that they made a recommendation which was in line with the resolution that we passed in March, April, May, June, July, August, September, October, okay? 6-7 months ago. And that resolution is commensurate, and it is exactly what the people in the county have done. What that was asked to be done by that committee and by this council has been followed through by this gentleman out there in the audience from the county, this good gentleman and his staff from the library task force. They went to bat for us. I want to thank him personally for that. And I want to thank the county staff for that. Any suggestion that and I know that emotions run deep here, that the county has in any way mismanaged anything, I don't know that. I sit in the hot seat here every once in a while, and I got accused of mismanagement just like everybody else. Okay? That's just a job that we get. I think that they're doing the best they can to fulfill the responses that have come from the public. They're doing the best that they can, and our staff is doing the best that they can to be responsive to the people, whether they want a feathered banner or whether they want a new library or whether they don't want anything in DRGR or whether they do want something in DRGR or whether they want it to be in the city of Bonita or they don't. That's our job, and we need to be respectful of that. And again, thank you so much for the work that you do. And thank you for following through and doing exactly what you said that you would do for us. Thank you. And with that, we will go to public comment at this time. Any members of the public wishing to speak, please come forward.
Good evening, everyone. I like to close the meetings. Kathy McGrath. The first thing I want to do is publicly congratulate Bobby Bird for the award she just won. I was gone when she got it, but if anyone knows her, she's a combination of Wonder Woman and the Energizer Bunny, and I'm so honored to work with her. She's just great. And the other thing I like to bring up, once a year, Make a Difference Day is coming up, October 26th. I think it's worldwide, not just nationwide. And I'd like to remind everybody, if you can, at least become a blood donor once every 56 days. I happen to be very fortunate. I am a platelet donor. I go every 2 weeks, and they take your blood, your platelets, they separate them and give your blood back. It takes time. Donating blood's about 15 minutes. They are so desperate for them that they keep me there 2 hours now. They need them. They need them for chemo, transplant, and trauma patients. And some chemo patients need 8 units a week. It takes 6 whole blood donors to get 1 unit. They get 2 units from me at one time. And I'm blessed with hundreds and hundreds of platelets, and they are replenished every 48 hours, so there's nothing there. So if you do have the time, do it. If you don't, at least donate blood. Make a difference. Make a difference, and there's many ways as you can. And I am not going to comment on anything else because I think you've heard it all. Say goodnight, Gracie.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Anyone else this time, please come forward.
Alberto Bayer. To follow up with the foundation that I poured when I initially came to the microphone, where I brought to you all's attention that it was very effective for me to engage the media in the scenario that I have reported on. I'm now engaging the media as my last recourse with regards to the 10-point agenda that the manager in my right has neglected, and it goes beyond neglecting. He has basically, in a nutshell, slapped me by virtue of portraying me.
You mean that metaphorically. I need you to make that clear.
By the way, Mayor, I'm so glad that you brought that up because these things are.
Could you please answer the question?
These things I understand on
Could
video.
you please
Take the
answer my
minutes
question?
off from what you just your interaction, and I'm
You
not going to
just-
answer your question because I have the right not to. Furthermore, you said to this gentleman, "Thank you for doing what you said that you would do." In the transcript that you said that you were going to be requesting, given my presentation 4 weeks ago, you said specifically as follows: you would be requesting the transcript, which by the way you didn't, and you would be responding to each and every one of the points that I made personally. Each and every one of the 10 points, sir, you did not do what you said that you would do. And it's a matter of record that you made the promise that you did not deliver upon. Leadership, sir, or respect is not enforceable. Respect is earned. Now, where I was, I'm engaging the media as I did in the past, and the magnifying glass is going to be put on the elected government of our municipality. Because one abused resident is one too many. In the last time that I came to this city hall, as I reported to Major Reardon, I had Bobby Hunter, Sergeant Bobby Hunter, breathing down my neck as if I have some sort of a personality that can represent a risk to any other member of my community. I want to tell you one thing, Mayor. In my entire life, I've never been in a fight. I talk too much. I've been blessed with a high enough IQ to be able to weasel myself out of that kind of a scenario. And I've never been in even a fight as a child. I am not one that can possibly represent a risk to anybody from any conceivable perspective. Now, engage in an intellectual debate with me, and there will be nothing that I will enjoy more. But I will maintain my manners, the highest standards of etiquette that are humanly possible, and will not entertain engaging in the kinds of unmannerly dynamics that you, sir, for example, displayed today during this opportunity to the microphone. So I'm looking forward to receiving answers from each and every one of you. I would like to thank you, Ms. Simons, because you happen to be the one that did respond to each and every one of the bullets. The 4 bullets at the bottom were not associated with you all doing anything, by the way. That's our agenda. We're the ones that are purchasing the properties and managing them. And we're going to be supervising the government. So those 4 were not relevant. But I do want to acknowledge, and I have a feeling that you have political aspirations.
I'm sorry, Mr. Bayer,
Because
your time is up. Thank you very much. Anyone else this time like to speak? Come forward. You're quite welcome.
You have the right.
Yes, sir. Come forward.
You
Sir, I'm going to have you escorted out. Thank you very much.
Hello, Mayor. My name is Miguel Lopez. My brother was actually here earlier about his whole trailer thing. I just want to make one simple request. The park that's right behind the McDonald's little corner right there, I would feel it's appropriate and a kindness to have a paved road rather than the bumpy road that is there. And I've been living there for like the past decade, and it's never been changed. Just something for consideration, sir. Thank you.
All right, could you leave your number with the city manager there, or with the city manager? Anyone else this time wish to speak? Please come forward.
We should do it.
All right, council, everyone, thank you very much. Meeting's adjourned.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That's right. That's right.